Okay, I think we will go ahead and begin. So thank you everyone for joining today's informational webinar about the new CRRC wall rating program that will be launching next month. We are really excited to be rolling out this new program, which is the first in the world. And we are extremely appreciative of all the many stakeholders who have been involved in the development of the program, as well as the marketing and outreach for the program. The purpose of today's webinar is to provide details about this new wall rating program, including how to participate, as well as how to get your products rated. And because we're providing a lot of details during this hour-long presentation, we are recording this webinar, and that recording will be available on the CRRC's website for later viewing. My name is Sarah Schneider, and I am the CRRC's Deputy Director. And along with me today, I have my co-presenters, Beth James Bourgeois and Audrey McGarrell. And I do want to give them a moment to quickly introduce themselves.
Hi, thank you, Sarah. As Sarah mentioned, my name is Beth James Bourgeois, and I'm the Administrative Coordinator for the CRRC roofing program. And I'll be assisting with the wall program on various application review as needed.
Hi everyone, my name is Audrey McGarrell and I'm the Cool Roof Rating Council Project Coordinator. I will be managing the wall product rating program, including handling day-to-day inquiries and processing product rating applications. I'm also the laboratory coordinator, so I will be the point of contact for labs with relation to wall product testing.
Thank you both. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Just some ground rules to begin with. Everyone's lines have been muted. If you've unmuted yourselves, please go back on mute. If you have questions or comments throughout the presentation, please do type them into the chat box. We've actually reserved some time at the end of this webinar to address those questions. Now, I know that a lot of you on this webinar are quite familiar with the CRRC and have been involved with the organization for several years, but there are some of you who may not be very familiar with our organization or are brand new coming to the wall rating program. So I'd like to give a little bit of background about who we are. The CRRC is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that evaluates and labels the radiative performance of roofing products and very soon exterior wall products. We provide a public service through product ratings, research, and education that supports the development of policies and programs centered around energy efficiency and mitigating the impacts of the urban heat island effect. We do this by publishing the radiative performance ratings or third-party ratings of products in an online directory. And that data is used by policymakers and program developers to evaluate various policy options, incentives, and programs. Though the CRRC's ratings are used in the development of some of those policies and programs, the CRRC does not advocate or recommend any particular requirements that are in those codes and programs. The CRRC was established back in 1998 through a collaboration of stakeholders, including government agencies, energy utilities, environmental organizations, and many, many players in the roofing industry. The primary purpose of the organization was to create a third-party rating system for the radiative performance of roofing products that would support California's energy code. We have since gone on to become a valuable resource, supporting a wide range of codes and programs that promote the use of cool roofing materials, both here in the US and abroad. And very recently in 2019, our membership voted to expand the scope and mission of the CRRC to include the rating of exterior walls. And as I mentioned at the very start of this webinar, that many stakeholders have been involved in the development of the wall rating program. That is a model that we used for developing the CRRC back 20 plus years ago. It's quite effective in ensuring that what we do end up adopting and utilizing for the rating program is something that's going to be meaningful, that has had the input of those who are going to be utilizing the program. So many of these stakeholders currently serve on a wall rating program committee, which I'll talk a little bit more about later on in this webinar. That committee is currently composed of 27 members representing 21 different organizations, so quite a diverse array of people involved. That committee evaluates various aspects of the wall rating program, including the technical requirements. So we're talking the testing, rating, and weathering aspects of the program, which are incredibly integral to the third rating system that we've developed for exterior walls. And like I said, I will share more information about this wall rating program committee and how to get involved with that committee later on in this webinar. So one question we have heard over the years is, why would the Cool Roof Rating Council be interested in walls? Well, in short, roofs and walls are very similar to one another. They both protect us against the elements and can both help reduce solar heat gain into a building. Also, the same test methods can be used to measure the radiative properties of these materials. Additionally, there are codes and standards and programs in existence right now that do specify a minimum threshold for the reflectivity and emissivity of exterior walls, but there's no third-party rating system in place to support compliance and enforcement. This means there are no standardized testing and reporting of the data, and very importantly, there is no comprehensive list of rated products available to the public. Since the CRRC has been operating a roof rating program for nearly 20 years now, we can leverage that expertise and that experience in running a similar type of program for exterior wall products. And then as a third-party organization, the CRRC is also an independent, objective, and neutral entity that's producing credible data for the public's benefit. I'm just going to very briefly go through some of the benefits and values associated with solar reflective walls in general, and also third-party product ratings before I hand things over to Beth and Audrey to get into the nitty-gritty of the program. Many of you may be aware already that there are several benefits associated with using solar reflective or highly reflective exterior wall materials. For one, they do help reduce indoor air temperatures by reducing the building's solar heat gain. This results, of course, in less air conditioning use in conditioned buildings, which in turn saves the home or building owner money. And on a larger scale, they help reduce energy demand on the strain on the electrical grid, which is really important when it comes to helping to reduce the number of brownouts and blackouts. This reduction in energy use also in turn helps to decrease the generation of greenhouse gas emissions. And also, solar reflective walls have been shown through research to help also reduce outdoor air temperatures, which not only helps to mitigate the impacts of the urban heat island effect, but also, very importantly, help to slow down and reduce the production of ground level ozone. Ground level ozone is an ingredient in the formation of smog, so a reduction of ozone helps to improve outdoor air quality. And then, of course, in buildings without air conditioning, solar reflective walls can help the interior of the building stay a little bit more tolerable during hot times of the day, or during a power outage. As I previously mentioned, solar reflective walls can save energy by reducing the amount of solar radiation that is conducted into the building through the wall surface. A recent study by the California Energy Commission actually found that solar reflective walls result in annual HVAC energy savings in residential and commercial buildings in all 16 climate zones throughout California, as well as US climate zones 1 through 4, shown here on the slide. And as I previously mentioned, there are codes, standards, and programs currently in place right now that do specify the minimum requirements for the reflectivity and or emissivity of exterior walls. Some of these include Green Seal's GS11 standard, the National Green Building Standard, the International Green Construction Code, also known as ASHRAE Standard 189.1 and ASHRAE Standard 90.1. There are also reflective wall provisions in the Green Globe certification scheme for commercial buildings, as well as in the LEED certification scheme, version 4.1, which is currently offering a heat island mitigation pilot credit for the installation of highly reflective walls. This credit is available through April of next year, and if it's popular enough, the U.S. Green Building Council will consider making it a permanent credit. Additionally, the state of Hawaii offers a compliance credit for the installation of highly reflective walls. This is the first in the nation to do so. And starting late next year, ASHRAE Standard 90.1, which is a benchmark standard that establishes the requirements, the energy efficiency requirements for most buildings except low-rise residential, will be offering a small compliance credit for all U.S. climate zones for the installation of a highly reflective wall material. And as I previously mentioned, that Energy Commission study found annual HVAC savings, energy savings in climate zones 1 through 4 in both residential and commercial buildings. So keeping that in mind, if a jurisdiction adopts the 2022 edition of ASHRAE Standard 90.1, that small compliance credit will be available. Additionally, California's Green Building Standards Code, commonly known as CalGreen, also has voluntary provisions for the installation of highly reflective walls, which becomes mandatory once adopted by a local jurisdiction. As I mentioned, all of these codes and standards that have a requirement for the installation of a highly reflective wall product, without the existence of a third-party rating system or product ratings available to the public, it makes it incredibly hard for not only consumers to be able to comply with that, but also on the other end for inspectors and program managers to be able to enforce those standards. That is why what we're trying to seek as a remedy to that problem through the new wall rating program. So, we talk about product ratings, and for those of you, especially those of you who are new to the CRRC, you may wonder what exactly is a third-party product rating, other than a mouthful of words. So in the context of the CRRC, a third-party product rating informs end users, so we're talking consumers, contractors, etc., about the product's ability to reduce solar heat gain into the building. It's based on measured data that's provided by an approved, CRRC-approved test laboratory and verified through CRRC's quality assurance mechanisms. The ratings are based on a scale of 0 to 1. So anything closer to 1 indicates a more reflective or emissive product. Third-party product ratings give assurance that the data are unbiased, which is really important because there is no affiliation with the manufacturing or distribution of those products. So since policymakers and program developers depend on credible data, the fact that a third party is operating this system and verifying that the data are credible is incredibly important. Additionally, the ratings also help with compliance. So even for financial incentive that's being offered, the ability for a consumer to be able to identify a compliant product or an eligible product by the third-party product ratings is incredibly important as well. And of course, all of this information is listed in an online directory known as the CRRC Rated Products Directory. So in addition to the directory, which Beth is actually going to talk a little bit more about in a moment, consumers can also find third-party product rating information on the CRRC wall product label, which will be available starting next month when the program starts. And also another way that consumers will be able to easily identify a CRRC rated wall product is through the rated wall products logo, which is shown here on the slide in addition to the label. Both of these resources will be available to manufacturers and sellers that will participate in the wall rating program to use in their marketing materials for those rated products. And now, for the start of the show, I'm going to hand things over to Beth to dive into the details of the new wall rating program.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Okay, so I'm going to go into the details. So starting off, the wall program ratings are based on a product's surface radiative performance, so solar reflectance and thermal emittance. Solar reflectance is the fraction of solar energy that is reflected by the wall, and thermal emittance is the relative ability of a wall surface to radiate absorbed heat. So every wall product will have two ratings, initial and aged. Initial testing is completed when the product is new before it is sent to the test farm for 3-year weathering. Age testing is conducted directly following the completion of the 3-year weathering. Both initial and aged ratings will be visible on the CRRC Wall Rated Products Directory, or which will be on the CRRC website. Until the aged test results are available, the initial test results will be visible on the directory and the aged results will say pending. Any wall product can be rated, with the exception of unique products where a new test method would be needed. Data requirements for product rating submission include product contact information, brand name and model number, product type and color, and radiative property measurements provided by a CRRC approved lab. Chemical formulations are not required, and initial ratings will be published on the CRRC rated wall products directory once approved. Wall product information and test data will be submitted using the product rating application and test results report, also known as the CRRC Excel workbook. The Excel workbook contains the product information entered by the wall licensee and test results entered by the AITL. An AITL, or Accredited Independent Testing Laboratory, is an accredited test lab approved by the CRRC to test wall products that is completely independent from any manufacturing company. The wall rating program initial rating process begins with the company applying to become a wall licensee. So even if you are an existing roof program licensee, since the wall program is completely independent of the roof program, you must apply separately to become a wall licensee prior to submitting wall product ratings. An approved wall licensee can then complete and send the CRRC along with the product specimens directly to the AITL. The AITL tests specimens and enters the test results in the CRRC and submits to the CRRC via email and retains a copy of that for themselves. Finally, the initial test results are reviewed and approved by CRRC staff and placed on the rated wall products directory. Next slide. When an AITL completes initial testing, they send the specimens to approved test farm 28 days before the next exposure placement. Specimens undergo 3-year field exposure, then are sent back to the AITL for age testing. The AITL completes age testing and enters the results into the retained CRRC. The AITL submits the CRRC to the CRRC via email within 90 days of removal from weathering. And finally, once reviewed and approved by CRRC staff, age test results are placed on the rated wall products directory. The wall rating application status flow is similar to the roof rating application status flow. So when the licensee submits the application to the test lab, it enters initial pending results. When the AITL submits the initial test results to the CRRC, it enters initial application review. When those results are approved by the CRRC, the application moves into either pending payment or initial approved, depending on whether the licensee has paid the application fee. And it will stay initial approved until 3 years following placement on the weathering farm, at which time it will enter aged pending results. When the AITL enters the age test results, it moves to aged application review, prompting staff to review and approve the age test results. For the wall rating program, the CRRC approves 2 types of labs: accredited independent test labs, AITLs, and accredited manufacturing test labs, AMTLs. And Audrey will provide more information on AMTLs later in the presentation. And an AITL is approved to submit test results to the CRRC for wall products seeking CRRC product ratings and is completely independent from any manufacturing company, seller, or distributor. AATLs have undergone specific training to perform approved test methods in the CRRC wall rating program by attending a CRRC lab training. And an AATL must demonstrate accreditation to the international standard ISO IEC 17025. And approved AITLs must also participate in the CRRC Biennial Interlaboratory Comparison Study, or ILC, to verify that all test equipment is calibrated properly and operated in compliance with the relevant ASTM standards and CRRC requirements. Existing CRRC approved AITLs will be allowed to conduct testing if appropriate measurement equipment has been procured for testing wall products. Test data for the wall rating program must be obtained by one of the following test methods. So for solar reflectance, ASTM C1549, ASTM E903, CRRC test method number 1 for variegated colors, and the CRRC directional hemispherical solar reflectance test method, or 410 solar reflectometer. And for thermal emittance, ASTM C1371 and the slide method. Wall products will be required to undergo 3 years of weathering at an approved test farm. The currently approved test farms are Atlas Weathering Services Group and QLab Weathering Research Service. Wall products are placed in 3 different climate zones around the country. So Ohio for cool, temperate, Arizona for hot and dry, and Florida for hot and humid, and will be exposed at 90 degrees vertical south facing. And now a little preview of the wall rated wall products directory. So wall products will be listed on the CRRC rated wall products directory, which is a free online database. Consumers can search for rated products by type, color, reflectance, thermal emittance, and more. And over the next few slides, I'm going to highlight a few of the features. So on the left side of the directory, we have the search and filter options. So you can type in keywords directly into the search bar, or you can filter for product type, colors, solar reflectance, thermal emittance, manufacturer, or product market. And I have a little picture of each of those, how they look on the directory. And you can also use the sort by button on the right-hand side. So you can sort for date added, CRRC product ID, manufacturer, brand and model, product type, and solar reflectance and thermal emittance values, or you can have them ascending or descending. What's also cool about the directory is that you can, there'll be a roof directory at the top right. So you can toggle between the roof and the wall directories by just, if you select roof directory, you'll go to the roof directory, and once there, it'll say wall directory, and you can go right back to the wall directory. And then if you need support or if you have any questions, you can just click the support link and it will take you to the contacts page of the CRRC website. And you can, when looking at the products listed on the directory, you can access manufacturer contact information by clicking the 3 dots to the right of every product rating. So if you click those 3 dots, it'll pull up the details of the product rating as well as the manufacturer contact information. And you can easily navigate to the CRRC website homepage by clicking the CRRC logo at the top left of the directory. And likewise, the wall and roof directories are easily accessible from the homepage of the CRRC website. And so this screenshot, you might notice that the website looks a little different. So we have redesigned the CRRC website and the directories, the roof directory as well. And we're going to be launching the update at the beginning of next year. So people rely on the accuracy of CRRC ratings that are listed on the rated wall product directory. So data integrity is critical to the CRRC. The CRRC ensures data integrity by vetting test methods and standards through a 32-member technical committee and only accepting test data that's approved by test labs and trained manufacturer test labs. requiring 3-year weathering by accredited test farms in 3 designated US climates, enforcing a strict chain of custody through testing, weathering, and rating process to avoid tampering of product samples, and operating a validation testing mechanism to verify that products in the marketplace accurately represent the products listed on the rated products directory. And rated wall products must be rated in conformance with the CRRC 2 Wall Rating Program Manual. Existing test data or measurements, either from the roof program or other measurements, may not be used for rated wall products because they were not conducted in accordance with the CRRC 2 Program Manual. Wall ratings are based on measured solar reflectance and thermal emittance by an approved CRRC test lab using proper equipment and settings. And since data integrity is critical to the CRRC, it's crucial that to the credibility as a third-party ratings organization. And with that, I will now hand it over to Audrey to discuss additional rating options.
Thanks, Beth. All right. I am going to provide some details about some specific product rating options available in the WALL product rating program. The first rating option we're going to talk about is reference ratings. So a reference rating is a rating option in which a product inherits measured data from another CRRC rated product. A common example of this would be private labeling. For a reference rating, the product manufacturer, company A in the example on screen, manufactures the product and obtains a standard product rating from the CRRC. Company B, a different company bringing the product to market, may submit a reference rating application that will inherit the rated data from Company A's application. In order to obtain a reference rating, an other manufacturer or OM authorization form must be signed by the licensed seller, which is the company submitting the reference application, and the licensed other manufacturer or OM. The signed OM authorization form must be submitted to the CRRC along with the product rating application. Both the licensed seller and the other manufacturer must be CRRC Wall Rating Program licensees. No additional testing is required for reference ratings since the test data is inherited from the referenced or parent product. Lastly, reference relationships are kept confidential between the licensed seller, the other manufacturer, and the CRRC. In other words, the reference relationship is not made public on the rated products directory. All right, the next rating option we're going to talk about is compound ratings. Compound ratings are a rating option in which one product rating application covers multiple product profiles with the same surface formulation. The images on screen are an example of this. For a compound rating, all products undergo initial testing and the profile with the lowest solar reflectance undergoes weathering and age testing. Each additional brand and model name is listed under the same product rating on the rated products directory. Next up is the color family program, which we're going to spend a little bit of time on. The color family rating option is designed for product types that have hundreds of different options of different colors in the same product line that are very similar in color. The example on screen is architectural coatings or paints. Under a color family rating, similar colors can be grouped together under a single rating. This option is available for architectural coatings or paints and factory applied coatings on metal panels. All elements in a color family group must belong to the same product line. This is because they must have similar chemical composition to ensure that they would age similarly in the field. Manufacturers that have their own testing facilities that have been approved by the CRRC may submit certain product data for color family applications. Beth touched on this earlier, and I will go into more detail about the accredited manufacturer testing laboratory program in a little while. All products submitted for the color family rating program must be tested for solar reflectance, thermal emittance, and color imagery. Color is measured because members of a color family group must fit within the defined color ranges for the chosen group. There's a few terms that you should be familiar with when applying for a color family rating. The representative element, or RE, is the product with the lowest solar reflectance. The RE must be tested by an independent test lab, a CRRC AITL, and must undergo 3-year weathering and age testing. An additional element, or AE, is a color family application that inherits the age data from its representative element. Initial and colorimetry testing for this type of product may be performed and submitted by either a manufacturer test lab or an AITL. On screen is a visual example of a color family group. The representative element is the color with the lowest solar reflectance or lowest lowest thermal emittance if there is a tie. The representative element receives initial and age testing from an independent lab. It also undergoes 3-year weathering and age testing. The additional elements may have initial solar reflectance, thermal emittance, and colorimetry data submitted by either an accredited manufacturer test lab or an independent lab. The additional elements have their tested initial values published on the directory, and then they inherit the aged ratings from the representative element. Paint products have special requirements for substrates. The standard substrate for products undergoing 3-year weathering is the metal panel with a solar reflectance of less than 0.2. Since color family additional elements do not need to withstand weathering, they can be applied to either a standard substrate, a Lunetiform BK, which is a plain black chart, or the black portion of a Lunetiform 2C opacity chart. Manufacturers may either provide prepared panels to the lab or supply the substrate to the lab along with instructions for proper application of the coating. On screen are examples of the Lunetiform BK and the Lunetiform 2C, which are the approved substrates for paint additional elements. Now that we've covered the details of the color family program, we're going to go over the Accredited Manufacturer Testing Laboratory, or AMTL. As mentioned earlier, AMTLs can submit test data for color family additional element applications. In order to become an AMTL, your company must apply and be approved by the CRRC. Your lab must be capable of measuring solar reflectance in one of the following ways: using the Devices and Services Portable Reflectometer with the air mass 1.5 global vertical setting, or by extracting the air mass 1.5 global vertical output from the raw measurement data. Alternatively, you can use the equivalent mode on the Surface Optics 410 Solar or 410 Solar I reflectometer. The lab must also be capable of measuring thermal emittance using the Devices and Services AE1 emisometer. To become an AMTL, you must first submit a completed AMTL application, which can be found on the CRRC website. You must also submit documentation of written test procedures, training records, a system for retaining test records, and a system for calibrating equipment. AMTL applicants must also participate in a CRRC AMTL training. A virtual training was held this past November, and future trainings will be scheduled as needed. If you're interested in attending an AMTL training, please contact me. After participating in a CRRC training, AMTL applicants must test a set of wall product specimens that is supplied by the CRRC. This is to ensure proper equipment settings, calibration, and operation. AMTL applicants must also submit a signed AMTL agreement, which is also available on our website. If you applied to become an AMTL prior to January 17th of next year, you won't be required to sign the agreement until after program launch, although you may sign it early if you wish. Lastly, AMTLs must pay the annual AMTL fee. The initial fee will be prorated depending on the application month. After completing the AMTL application process, there are some ongoing responsibilities associated with being an AMTL. First, AMTLs must pay an annual renewal fee. They must also participate in the CRRC Biennial Interlaboratory Comparison Study, or ILC. As mentioned earlier in this webinar, the ILC ensures consistency and competency among all CRRC approved test labs. This includes independent labs, manufacturer labs, and test farms. Lastly, AMTLs must retain at least one responsible person. The responsible person is an individual who participated in a CRRC training and must perform or supervise all testing that is submitted for CRRC ratings. If any personnel changes occur that affect the responsible person, the CRRC must be notified within 10 business days so that appropriate steps such as training or replacement may be taken. For any companies interested in becoming an AMTL, we encourage you to review the complete AMTL requirements found in sections 2.2, 2.3, and 2.6 of the CRRC2 Wall Product Rating Program Manual. The manual can be found on the CRRC website. In addition, please feel free to contact myself with any questions about the AMTL program, or if you're interested in attending a future AMTL training session. With that, I will turn it back over to Sarah to talk about getting involved with the WALL program.
Thanks, Audrey. Okay, so as mentioned before, in order to have products rated, companies need to become licensed with the program. So this applies to manufacturers and sellers of exterior wall products. The steps essentially to become licensed to participate in the wall rating program is to submit a licensee application, to submit a signed licensee agreement, and to pay the initial licensee fee. And as Audrey had just explained, that if a licensee is interested in also becoming an AMTL, they have that option of submitting the required materials and paperwork. I do want to call out the fact that the wall rating program is completely separate from the CRRC's roof rating program. So that if you are licensed to participate in the roof rating program, you will still need to apply to become a licensee in the wall rating program. This table here lists the fees for licensees and AMTLs. Fees are paid annually and are prorated for the first year that a company becomes licensed in the program. The licensee fees are determined by the annual sales of exterior wall products, which is the total global sales of exterior products for that company in a given year. It's not limited to just the sales of CRRC rated wall products or to regional sales. It's total global sales of exterior wall products. Once a company becomes licensed, then they can start the process to have products rated. This is a refresher of what Beth already described earlier in greater detail. Essentially, the licensee would be responsible for selecting and reaching out to a CRRC approved test lab for the initial testing of the product samples. Additionally, reaching out to a test lab. It doesn't have to be the same test lab for 3-year age testing. Also, the licensee is responsible for selecting and then engaging with a CRRC approved test farm for the 3 years of field exposure or weathering. And then of course, paying the initial product rating fee and then the annual fee, renewal fee. And this table here lists the initial and annual product rating fees. I do want to call out that the initial fees are slightly higher than the renewal fees, and this is to mainly cover the application processing aspect that comes with initially rating a product. And then the renewal fees cover the maintenance of the program moving forward. And then you may also notice that the fees vary by rating type. So a standard product fee is different from a compound rating product fee as compared to a color family additional element, for example. So I do want to also call out that we are currently accepting applications, even though the program is not officially launching until January 17th. This just gives you a little bit of a leg up in the application process. We try to do our best to review and process applications, but if you are eager, I do recommend starting the paperwork process now. As mentioned earlier, applications on all other forms can be found on the CRRC website. There's no obligation to pay the licensee fee now until the program officially launches in about 6 weeks. And as mentioned, the applications can be found. If you have any questions, please do reach out to Audrey at coolroofs.org. She is going to be managing the program and can help walk you through any questions you may have regarding the licensee application form and or licensee agreement. And also, as Beth had noted, because we are going to be launching a brand new website, the forms will be on that new website. They'll just be a different URL compared to what's listed right now. So just keep that in mind. If you were going to bookmark something, it's going to change after January 1st. Finally, I wanted to conclude this presentation with a little bit more information about how to get involved with the Wall Rating Program Committee, like I mentioned earlier on. Again, this is a committee that evaluates the various aspects pertaining to the Wall Rating Program. It is a board advisory committee, so it does make non-binding recommendations to the board of directors. You can either join this committee or attend the committee meetings as a non-committee member. We have a list of the next upcoming meetings here. You can also navigate to the CRRC website, coolroofs.org, to view more committee meetings. And if you're interested in learning more about the Wall Rating Program Committee, any of its working groups, and or getting on the committee's email distribution list, please do reach out to Jeff Steuben at jeff@coolroofs.org. And with that, we have about 15 minutes or so for Q&A, which is what we were hoping for. I do see that a few people have left questions in the chat, which I'd like to go through. So please do, if you have more questions, please feel free to type them into the chat. If you're feeling a little bit shy, you can certainly reach out to any of us, namely Audrey, at Audrey at coolroofs.org. With your questions. So let's go from the top. For Marie, will this to be based on color families? Since we did cover color family program details, I hope that we were able to address your question. If not, if you could please type in any clarifying questions back into the chat, that'd be great. Jason asked, will CRRC offer rapid ratings similar to roof coatings? This is an excellent question. At this time, we will not be offering rapid ratings for wall products simply because there is no industry standard for that. So as you may know, the rapid ratings program for the roof rating program is based on ASTM D7897, which is the standard laboratory practice for or protocol for the simulated aging of roofing materials. I don't know if there's any plans at this point for the development of a similar standard. I would imagine that's probably coming down the pike pretty soon. Several people have asked the same question. So I would just say keep in touch, and hopefully we'll have something possibly in a few years. And then Jason also asked if there's different wall finish, because there are different wall finishes, are we going to be offering or requiring a smooth and rough surface rating? That's also a very excellent question. At this time, there are no plans. However, the Wall Rating Program Committee does continue to evaluate technical considerations like this. So I would say stay in touch on this one as well. Let's move on. Nicholas asks, is it possible to copy this presentation? Yes, this presentation is being recorded, so we will provide a copy on of the recording on the website. We could also consider posting a PDF of this presentation as well, or you could email us with your requests for a copy of this presentation. Okay, Richard asks, for products where roof and wall materials or coatings are exactly the same and already listed with the CRRC, how is the wall test process different? What benefit does additional testing gain? Richard, I hope that we were able to address this question regarding the equipment settings on some of the, for some of the test methods. And then also in terms of weathering, the weathering exposure angles is quite different. It's 90 degrees, and so it's vertical instead of at a horizontal slope, which would be for roofing materials. So if we didn't fully answer your question, please do reach out to us again or elaborate in the chat. Moving on, Brian asks, out of the upcoming building codes / green codes, which of those will require independent third-party testing data? Also a very excellent question. I don't know. We're not closely involved in the actual requirements. So I can't say for sure which of the upcoming building codes are going to require third-party testing data. I think implicitly that they, based on history and based on the references or requirements to use CRRC rated products or products tested in accordance with the CRRC program or our American national standard, I would imagine that codes and programs developers would prefer to go with third-party testing data in future or upcoming code activities for exterior walls. Okay, so and then Kevin asks, are there any plans for, okay, so this is similar to the rapid ratings question about accelerated testing for the time period between initial certification and the 3-year mark. So same thing, because there isn't an industry standard, an ASTM standard practice for accelerated aging of wall materials. At this point, we're not going to offer rapid ratings until something like that is developed. But as I mentioned earlier, though I'm not sure if anything's been started yet, Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory was the driver behind the ASTM standard for lab aging of roofing materials. It's on their radar. So I imagine that they'll be considering this. LBNL also was the lead author on the Energy Commission, California Energy Commission funded study on solar reflective walls. So they're very, very in tune with this subject and very supportive of finding ways to increase the use of these products. And I think I just blew through all those questions in record time. So please do, if you have additional questions, go ahead and type them in the chat. I don't think I've missed anybody's. Audrey, Beth, let me know if I've missed anybody's questions in the chat.
Yeah, it looks like Jason wants us to repeat the answer to Richard's question regarding how exactly the wall test process is different.
Yeah, okay. Yes, thank you, Jason. And I apologize, Richard, if I breezed through the answer there quickly. I'm actually going to punt this over to Audrey. Audrey, if you don't mind.
Sure. So as Sarah sort of briefly mentioned when she answered the question, the setting on the instrument for solar reflectance testing is actually different for the wall program than it is for the roof program. And that is because of the angle that the wall products are interacting with the sun. So basically, any solar reflectance data for a product that was taken for the roof program is not going to exactly align with the data that we need for the wall program. And to reiterate what Sarah mentioned about the weathering angle, the specimens are exposed at a different angle for the wall program.
One other, just to piggyback on that too, thank you, Audrey, is that for architectural paints, the substrate is not a bare aluminum panel like for field applied or liquid applied coatings in the roof program. It has to have a solar reflectance of less than 0.2. So that's another substantial difference between the two programs.
And Sarah, can you repeat what the exposure angle for the wall products is? Jason Smith is asking.
Yeah, Beth probably could answer this one a lot better. For steep sloped, I think it's 5 degrees. Beth, I don't want to
I will have to follow up on that.
It's 5 and 45.
I believe it's 5 and 45 for the roofs.
Oh, so 5 is low sloped and 45 is
Yeah.
steep slope, sorry.
I believe they'll be exposed at a 90-degree south facing vertical. But I will verify that. But I'm pretty sure that it's a 90-degree south facing.
Yeah, and I see that Jason just clarified his question. Yes, and I agree with you, Beth. It's 90 degrees south facing. And the samples will also be staggered to prevent any potential dripping of environmental material or the product itself onto other specimens that are hanging out there on the exposure rack. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. So we will conclude today's informational webinar. Again, if you have any questions, please do reach out to Audrey McGarrell, who will be managing the wall rating program. Her information is here on the slide. And then also Jeff Steuben, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today on this webinar, also is going to be very closely involved with the wall rating program, particularly the committee. So if you have an interest in getting involved or have questions about the committee, do reach out to Jeff at jeff@coolroofs.org. And then with general questions, you can reach out to me, Sarah at coolroofs.org, or Beth James Bourgeois at beth@coolroofs.org. Thank you, everyone, and stay safe. And this recording will be on the website, coolroofs.org, by the end of the week. Thank you.